Hello everybody. I want to explain a little bit about this video you're about to watch. I recorded this, I believe, on the 2nd of September, and I've been working on it for all that time, trying to get it correct, and I have failed. The audio in it is terrible, and I just could not figure out why the audio was so bad. So after a couple of weeks, working, trying to get it so I could at least make it a little bit legible, hearing-wise, as you'll be able to see as you watch. I found out what the problem was, and it was the fluorescent lighting. If I'd have left it off, I wouldn't have had that buzzing sound, and I would have had a clear audio with the recording. So unless I get a chance to redo this video, it's going to be a crappy video. But the information is there, and I think you could get quite a bit out of it.
My name is Bill Koinis, Koinis, pronounced Koinis. Bill. My wife and I and our 4 children came to Vermilion in 1960. Our business opened July 26, 1960, and my family moved here in September of 1960 from Toledo, Ohio. My older brother, Chris, had the A&W business in Sandusky, Ohio. He started that in 1958, and in 1960, in the spring of 1960, we took an option on a piece of property on Alberta Road and East Lake Road, which we developed and built the Rootbeer Stand. Yes, my wife's maiden name was Libby, L-I-B-I. Her name was Patricia Ann Libby. She was born in Toledo, Ohio in 1931. Had a sister, Jacqueline, and her parents' name was Joseph and Lila Libby. I had 4 children. The oldest was John. He was born in 1952. Then there was Jennifer. She was born in 1953. And then Jody, she was born in 1956. And then Julia, our youngest, was born in 1960, February of 1960. They all look in the record, starting from a very early age. Their first job was washing the mugs, because we served the root beer to the customers in the cars that walk up at the counter in cool root beer mugs. No, they had the option of doing that in the beginning. However, I didn't feel that I would be able to get enough girls that were capable of performing the trade on roller skates, and I wasn't very enthused about hearing the breaking glass on the pavement where they would slip, or the mugs would fall off and break. I think so, yeah. So we did, in order to get some of the mugs in the hands of the customers, we did sell the mugs. And then, of course, we did lose some mugs. I don't want to exactly use the word pilfering, but some of the mugs left the premises without being paid for. Let's just leave it at that. Yes, I noticed they do, the mugs I've seen in flea markets and that do command a pretty high price for what they could have bought them at this drive-in. I think history was a favorite subject of mine. In fact, when I was in the sixth grade, I read a book on General Rommel, the eminent German general. And that was an interesting book about his exploits in North Africa and during the start of the Second World War. No, I went to the University of Toledo. I graduated from high school in 1947, Scott High School, Toledo Scott High School in 1947. And we were fortunate that in Toledo we had a great university, the University of Toledo. And I went there for 2 years. And then I decided that I would venture out into the business world. I helped my father in his business, and then I went to Detroit for 6 months in the mid-1950s. We just opened up a restaurant in East Detroit by Grosse Point. And I worked for him for 6 months before I went into the Air Force in December of 1950. I went to Lackland Air Force Base for a little basic training, and then I went to Cheyenne, Wyoming, late January of 1951 to administrative school. And then I went in April, I went to Rice-Patterson Air Force Base, Dayton, Ohio, and served there for 30 months until I got out of the service in October of 1952. After I got out of the service, I worked for my dad in his business. He had a food type business operating concession stands, and he had a few popcorn trucks. I worked for him for a couple of years, and then I worked for a machine tool distributor, Otis Machinery Company in Toledo. I was their sales office manager for 4 years until the spring of 1960 when we decided to go into business and start our A&W. The worst job, probably when I was a youngster, about 12 years old, was cleaning my dad's shop where he made caramel corn and candy apples and things like that, cleaning the candy kettles and the popcorn poppers and things like that. That was probably the worst job. There was Tony Amos and Debbie Russ, Steve Birch, Linda Casterline, Mary Lee Russell. Yeah, they were employees. I usually had somebody who was cooking, helping me cook, or doing the cooking that used to take over while I wasn't there. Nancy Puckett was another one. The Puckett girls, Ruth. I had a few that had the capability of interacting with the customers and sales people that came in when I entertained and just opened them again. Oh yeah, there were a few. I can't remember a lot of them. One of them was after the one of the basketball games when we were open most of the year round. See, there was I didn't have any inside service. It was strictly car hops and walk ups. So in bad weather and when it's really cold, I was a little hampered in operating because the weather conditions were not conducive. But after a basketball game, it had snowed quite a bit, and Mark from Mark Sanoso would plow the lot for me. He came and plowed the lot so I would prepare for the people coming from the basketball game because we usually got a number of people after the game. The lot would get full. And the kids got out of their cars and they were, I was standing by the door and they would have a little snowball fight. So I thought, well, I better put a stop to this. So I went outside and there was one kid, I don't recall his name, he had a snowball in his hand and I said, okay, you're going to be the last snowball that's thrown. So go ahead and throw it. Everybody else get in their cars and no more snowball. So he threw the ball at me, but a higher up over my head and hit the building up above. And I said, okay, that's fine. So there, everybody, the kids were great. They got in their cars and we just kept on doing business. But yeah, there were a lot of incidents, you know. Another one was we tried to keep track of the mugs. So when you got a reorder, when you reordered a mug, the top hop would take a mug back that you finished. Well, one time one of the girls went out to pick up a tray and she said, I think you have another mug. My record showed that you have another mug. And the mother and the father said, no, we don't have any mugs. And then the little girl in the back seat said, yes, mother, remember you put it underneath the front seat. So, yeah, there was a number of incidents like that. Yeah. And there were a few incidents like that. Yeah. But all in all, it was a great place, I think so. Oh yeah, there are a few things I would change. I would have put either a small area for walk-up service away from the cold, you know, just a little room light, and also a canopy system for cover for the cars, at least a number of them, which would make it a little easier for my employees to look when the weather was bad or whether it was raining or snowing, something like that. As far as the food itself, no, I don't think I would change anything. We cooked everything we cooked was fresh. We didn't throw anything frozen on the grill. In fact, probably the only thing frozen that we handled was the French fries and the shrimp, or the shrimp pasta. Everything was fresh. Fresh patties. Of course, they took a little bit longer because we didn't ever pre-cook anything. Even our hot dogs were never pre-cooked. So everything was cooked fresh. We breaded our own onions. We got the onions fresh. We cut them, sliced them, cut them, dipped them, hand dipped. In the same way with the fish. We would about 10 o'clock in the morning, somebody would go down to either Fishman or Dennis Fish, and we'd get the fish fresh. Most of our fish was swimming in Lake Erie the night before we ate it. It was breaded fresh with our own recipes. We have our own recipes for the breading for the fish, the onion rings. We made our own barbecue beef. We had our own sauce. We slow cooked the chuck roast, boneless chuck roast, shredded it, put it in the, all that was fresh. We made our own tartar sauce. We made our own coleslaw. We used a sweet sour coleslaw, which was great on the chili dog. Yeah, and it was all fresh. We had customers. In fact, we had a elderly couple from Lorraine that come out every Friday at supper time, like clockwork, from maybe April until November, and get their 2 6 clears.
Was there any place to fast food restaurants today?
Well, another thing, you got what you wanted on your sandwich, your hamburger. You know. If you wanted mustard only, ketchup only, lettuce, tomato only. Well, now a lot of them are putting whatever you want on your sandwich, and of course their service is slow. I mean, some fast food places in the years past with pre-cooked, they see a lot of cars pull into their parking lot. So they would throw a lot of hamburgers on the grill, and then when they got done, they would take them and they would put the hamburger in a warming oven, like a bun warming oven. And then when they did an order, they would just reach down and pull the hamburger. I could never do that. I mean, I was growing up in my father's business. He served hamburgers and hot dogs, and he never did that. We never pre-cooked anything, and I just didn't feel that I wanted to do that. And of course, that slowed my service down a little bit, but it was busy. Oh, yeah, we did. Oh, yeah, it was just an incredible place to raise your children. I mean, we lived on... First place we lived was in that double house across the street from the little grocery store in Vermilion on the lake, and across the street from the clubhouse. And we lived there for about a year, a little over a year, and then we bought the house on Ferry Street. Used to be Cap Soul's house. It was owned by Bill and Sue first. They moved and we bought that house. And our children grew up in that house, a block from the library. They could walk to school. They could walk downtown. We lived a short block and a half from the beach. The kids just, they could swim in the fall until the weather got cold. We lived 2 blocks from downtown. Just short blocks. Okay. And then we lived 3 blocks from probably the best bakery around, Swenson. I mean, we just couldn't get enough of their maple nut rolls and their pecan roll. Oh yeah, the sweet and sour cookies. And the pecan roll, that pecan roll we used to get, oh my gosh. And it was just, it was just a great place. You could walk, the kids could walk or bike to the YMCA swimming pool. It's right up there on Vermilion Road, isn't it? So, yeah. It was just a great place. School system was very good. it was just a great place to raise your children. So we lived there for about 28 years. And then we eventually bought my son's house out in Valley View on Hollyview. That's when we brought my in-laws to live with us. My wife's folks, they were in their early 90s. My father-in-law lived, he was 91, I believe. He was with us for 3 years before he passed on. And my mother-in-law, she lived with us until she was 98, almost 99, and she got too much. We had to put her in a nursing home. She lived there about another year, and then she passed on 4 months short of her 100th birthday. No, it's Amherst. I forget the name of it. The name is and my wife was a music major at the University of Toledo, and she was always enjoyed singing. She was in the Toledo Opera Workshop Association, and in November of 1959, before we moved here, she had a solo part in the opera Aida in Toledo that the Toledo Opera Workshop put on at the Paramount Theater. And the director said she was the only pregnant slave girl that he has ever remembered in Aida, because my wife was carrying her youngest, Julie, at the time, and Julie was born 3 months later. Yeah, and my wife enjoys singing, and we belong to the Congregational Church, and my wife sang and soloed in the choir there for all the years we were there. 26 years. I operated it 25 years under the A&W name. That was the length of my franchise. I could have renewed it. However, they strongly recommended that I tear the building down and build one of their new type buildings with inside service, which meant you extend your hours to opening early in the morning and staying open late at night. And I really didn't want to do that because my children had grown up and they started having families, and I just wanted to spend time with my grandchildren. So I operated one more year under the name Bill's Stand. And I operated for 1 year, and incidentally, spending time with their children, their grandchildren, I wanted to make a remark about, I used to close 1 day a week in the summertime on Tuesday, which was practically unheard of. If you would take a place in a semi or a semi-resort area, and close 1 day a week in the middle of your busy season. But I wanted to spend time with my children. They were growing up, John, Jennifer, Jody, and Julie. They were growing up, and I just felt I was working so many hours that if I didn't do something, I would lose a good part of my life. So I decided to close 1 day a week, so that way I would go. So we would close 1 day and we would go canoeing, we would go to Cedar Point, we would go to wherever. And pretty soon John had friends of his, so he left. So that was like the 3 girls. So pretty soon Jennifer said, well, I'd like to spend my day off with my friends up at the Lagoons Beach or wherever. So I said, okay, you can go. So pretty soon there was just Jody and Julie left, and mother, my wife and I. And so I will let the girls take some friends with them. And then pretty soon next year Jody decided she wanted to stay. And then Julie decided. So now there's just my wife and I, and we're closed on Tuesdays. And I said to my wife, yeah, maybe we ought to open up again. And she said, don't you dare. So I said, all right, we'll just throw the golf clubs in the car. So we would go golfing at Willow Creek, Vermilion Country Club, Rolling Acres. Yeah, so I really enjoyed Vermilion. It was just a place that I'm thankful that I had the opportunity to come here with the fine people, and we made a lot of friends, and we made a lot of really good customers. And, I just enjoyed it. It was just a great place. A great place. Madison, yeah. All right, my wife, I'll give you a little history on it. My wife fell down and broke her hip on just before 2020, New Year's Eve Day, 1951. And she went into the hospital, and this was when we were living in Madison, Georgia. And she stayed in the hospital for three and a half months, either in the hospital or a rehab facility. And then April 17th, 2020, we brought her home for a week of hospice, and she passed away on April 24th, 2020, after my daughter Julie in Madison, Georgia. We had lived in Madison, Georgia, and I decided to live with my daughter Julie and her husband John Kimmel, and that's where I am today, Madison, Georgia. I really enjoyed being here and with the city officials, the community, the business community, working with them, supporting the schools, the athletic facilities, the Lions Club, which I was a member of for a few years. It's just been a great, great place. And my children have prospered here. They've enjoyed it. It's just a great, great place, as they say, to anchor. Well, thank you. The prices today that restaurants charge, in comparison to what we charged years ago, is just astronomical. Case in point, fish dinners. We've seen fish dinners advertised for $18, $19, $24. Well, in 1960, we sold a fish dinner, 6 halves, French fries, coleslaw, tartar sauce, and a roll for 95 cents. Fish, I could buy it at the fish house here for less than 25 cents a pound. Yes. Right at Fishman's and Dennis Fish. What? Yeah. And the thing about my grandkids coming up to go to Cedar Point and stay in our house, at our house on College Union, where they would all congregate. They went someplace in Sandusky or someplace and bought used. They went at the Goodwill or someplace, and they found these shirts that had Vermilion Sound Sensations on it. Remember when they wore these shirts, and they were at Cedar Point, and people saw them and said, "Hey, how about singing for us?" You know, yeah, that was something. Yeah. So yeah, it was. Well, this is what I said. Somebody told me about the cane. I said, well, the first 90 years were a piece of cake. You know, I used to walk, I used to golf and this and that. But the last almost three, because I'll be 93 in November, I think the last almost 3 years, the frosting is melting off the cake. I mean, I get on a, well, my son lives in Arizona. Jennifer lives in Pennsylvania. My daughter Jody lives in Fairmont, Florida. And Julie lives in Madison, Georgia. And I've traveled all over. I've spent Christmas at the Grand Canyon with John and Diane, my daughter. I've been to Colorado. Jennifer they have a house in Colorado, and they lived out there for a while. They still have the house at the Colorado National Monument in Grand Junction. Yeah.
You have a lot of places to go.
And I go to Florida. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I don't really stand still.